There are a few seats here. Please take advantage of the seats. We're about to begin the service. Mrs. Darlene, Dolly, Howard, Nast, Rabbi Michael Schwab, officiating from North Suburban Synagogue, Bethel. Just a gentle reminder, folks, if you have a cell phone with you this afternoon, please place it in the silent mode or turn it off completely. Thank you.
In memory of Dolly, I'm going to begin by reciting Psalm 23 in the Hebrew, and then in your service folder you have Psalm 23 in the English, and you're more than welcome to join me when I translate it into English and we can read it together. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi la'achsar, binoteh sheyar bitzeni, Ame menuchot yinahaleni, Nafshi yeshovev yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo, Gam ki elech begeit salmavet lo irara ki atay madi, Shiftecha mishan techa hema yenachamuni, Taroch lefanai shochan neged tzorai, Dishanta v'Hashem roshi kosi revaya, Ach tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chayai, V'shavti b'beit Adonai le'orech yamim. Please join me if you wish in reciting Psalm 23 in the English together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. It is my firm belief, in the belief of our tradition, that the soul of Dolly Nast does indeed dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There is a wonderful quotation from our tradition in the Talmud, Brachot 17a, that says the following: Ashrei mi shegadal b'Torah v'malo b'Torah v'oseh natan ruach liyotzro v'gadal b'shem tov v'niftar b'shem tov min ha'olam. Blessed is one who is reared in Torah, who labored in Torah, who pleased our Creator, who lived with a good reputation, and who died with a good name. Dolly was somebody who was very involved in her Jewish community and Jewish learning. She cared very much about the Jewish people and living a life of Torah and holidays. She certainly, in my mind, and of course in yours, pleased our Creator. She lived with an amazing reputation, and she died with a beautiful name. And for that we thank God and say Amen.
Amen.
In the book of Proverbs, there is a special poem that we recite to the women of the house on Friday nights traditionally. It's called Eshet Chayil. And I just want to read you parts of it because I think they describe her. What a precious find is an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him all the days of her life. She opens her hands to the needy, extends her hands to the poor. She's clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully and opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household, and never eats the bread of idleness. Her son comes forward and blesses her. Her husband praises her and says, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceitful and beauty vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hands. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. All of us are gathered here today to speak her praise, and I believe that everyone, whenever we gather together to talk about her, it'll always be with goodness and love in mind. Speaking of love, I'm going to ask, ready? I'm going to ask Michelle to come up and say some words, and she's also going to say some of the words for Barry as well.
So first I'm going to read on behalf of my sister Barry. Grams, for the last 40-ish years, I was able to pick up a phone call to you to call you for anything. Where should we go to dinner, or are we related to so-and-so, or just to chat? You always answered and had time for me. The last few years have been different, but still knew you were a call away or a quick drive to say hi. But now you're a long-distance call, and unfortunately I don't have that in my cell phone plan. From dance recitals to knee doctor appointments in the city, to picking out flowers for my wedding, to telling you you are going to be a great grandma, the times were fun and always entertaining. Remember when you took Michelle and I to the Rock and Roll McDonald's and got a speeding ticket with us? Or when you drove down to college and I took you to the bars? From sleepovers and pool dates at your house to playing piano and doing puzzles. South Haven with the best chocolate chip cookies to Israel, we always had fun. I'm sad my girls had to miss the last few years with you because of COVID, but we always talk about you and carry on your traditions. I hope you're singing and dancing with one of your husbands somewhere and drinking your intelligentsia coffee. We will miss you. My grandma Dolly always loved telling me the story about when I was born. My birthday is April 1st, so it often falls during Passover. And in 1977, that was the case. As the story goes, she was making a chocolate cake for Passover and got the call that I was on the way. So she dropped everything and left for the hospital. Now, if you're here, that means you knew Dolly well, and the idea of her leaving a messy kitchen behind seems unfathomable. But I always chose to believe that this was the one exception. She was an amazing cook and baker. Dream bars, caramelized potatoes, chopped liver, soups, meatballs, and latkes were some of her most popular dishes. Oh my goodness, the latkes. Paper thin, prepared and frozen in advance for easy Hanukkah heat up, they always turned out perfect. According to her last Hanukkah menu, she'd make 150 of them. I think about half of those were for my cousin Robert Watman, of blessed memory. I remember the first year I took over latke duty when Barry and Tony started hosting Hanukkah. This was a lot of pressure. I followed her recipe exactly, and when she tasted a fresh latke from the oven and I saw her smile, I knew I had nailed it. The latke torch had officially been passed. Getting Dolly's stamp of approval on something you cooked or baked, especially when it was a family recipe, was huge. If there's a recipe of hers that you loved, I have it, and I'm more than happy to share it. Her meatballs were the best. She'd make about 10 pounds for each holiday because she knew everyone would want leftovers. Nobody left a holiday without a goodie bag. Round sunset bags, containers, and tinfoil lined the kitchen table so that anyone could take what they wanted. At some point, she figured she'd just make even more food and prepackaged things, so this process was even easier. I remember her freezer being filled with Nordstrom boxes that contained the baked goods for the upcoming holiday or whatever happened to be left over. So it was not uncommon for my sister or I to sneak into the laundry room and get into the freezer and steal a lemon bar without anyone knowing. As our family expanded, Dolly would always welcome new members with open arms. For her, this simply meant more people to love and more meatballs to make. Nobody was ever seen as a step anything or a second anything. We were simply family, and that is why so many of them are here today. And even though our family expanded over the years, we also lost many members, some way too soon. But I think this just drove my grandma to keep the traditions going and make sure that the family stayed close. And she saved everything: cards, letters, birth announcements, new address announcements, invitations, thank you notes. These things really meant something to her. A quick note about Passover. Now, of course, every family has a Seder plate for Passover, but one big Seder plate wasn't enough for Dolly. She made sure everyone had an individual Seder plate so that the service could be as interactive as possible. And we're not talking 10 or 12. Some years it was 30 or more. And because it was Dolly, you didn't just toss things onto the Seder plates. Everything had a spot. We'd set up an assembly line on the kitchen table to get to work. The salt water went in the middle, and somehow she managed to find mini plastic bowls to use for this, and this was well before Amazon days. Everyone got half of a hard-boiled egg, the parsley, bitter herbs, and haroset. But you couldn't have the horseradish or haroset juices run all over the plate. So small radicchio lettuce cups were used to house the horseradish, and to balance it out, big lettuce cups were used for the haroset. And then there was the puzzle. She had this fairy tale story puzzle in a can that sat on the top of the office closet. And every holiday after we had eaten, us kids would head back there, get the puzzle, and put it together. It became as much of a tradition as split pea soup on Thanksgiving and the ABC cake, ice cream cake on Hanukkah. Over the years, a few pieces got lost, but we still put it together because, well, that's just what we did. Grandma, we are so honored to have had you as a matriarch of our family for so many years. Your traditions, recipes, and stories will live on through us in generations to come. Say hi to those who went before you. Rest easy. Lots of love.
Now I'm going to call Alan up here to say some words about his mom.
So there's a famous quote that goes, it's not the quantity of years in your life, it's the quality of life in your years. One of the people that was attributed to was Abraham Lincoln. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I don't ever been to a Jewish funeral where somebody quoted Abraham Lincoln, so I'm staying with it. My mother was loved by many. The last thing she said to me was, I'm so glad you're here, I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad you're here. She would want to be here. She's looking down. I know that. She would also tell me, say what you mean and mean what you say, which is how I've tried to live my life. It's what I've tried to instill in my daughters and my granddaughters. She would also tell me, make it brief because people are hungry and they need to be fed. So I'm going to make that brief. From my heart to everybody that's here, thank you so much for being a part of her life. Thank you so much for being a part of mine.
All right, I'm gonna be rabbi brief, but maybe not as brief as that. The Torah tells us about our patriarch Abraham, the words Hu Yavarech Bakol. He was blessed in everything. And in so many ways, the same could be said about Dolly. She found not one, but two loves in her lifetime, two amazing husbands who she cherished. She had an incredible son, Alan, devoted grandchildren, Michelle and Barry, adored great-grandchildren, Danielle and Lily, beloved sisters, loving nieces, and so many other wonderful family and friends. She was enriched so much by her fantastic family. She was beloved and respected in her community, which is my community, our community. She was smart and wise. She could cook, as you heard, and hosted incredible meals. She was funny and engaging, and she had a huge heart. She led a wonderful life, contributing so much to the world, and in turn, life gave her so much happiness and fulfillment. She was truly blessed in so many ways, just like our patriarch, Abraham. Therefore, I really do extend my condolences to all of her loving family and friends, all the people in her life. You know that she meant so much to you, but you also know how much you meant to her. I know you'll miss her dearly, but we will carry her with us through the way she touched our lives and through the great memories that we will cherish for the rest of our lives together. My prayer is that the words we share today and the traditions of our people provide us with some measure of comfort during a difficult time. So as many of you probably already know, Dolly grew up on the northwest side of Chicago. She was the youngest of the sisters, and she absolutely loved family. As a youngster, I was told she was an excellent student, which should be of no surprise to anyone, considering how organized and smart she was. She wanted to go to college and certainly could have, but her parents insisted she get a job, which was more typical in that era, and therefore she found work as a bookkeeper and was in that profession for many years. She met Alan's father, William, at a dance once the war was over, and after playing hard to get for a bit, she agreed to a date. She determined that he was a great guy, and she was right, and soon they were married. They had a wonderful marriage of 35 years or so. Soon after, they had Alan, and Dolly stopped working to focus on being a mother. Alan shared that she was a devoted, caring, sometimes tough, but always loving mother who always wanted Alan to be his best, and always provided everything he could possibly need. After hearing your words, Alan, it is clear to me how much of a special mother she was, and I know you'll miss her greatly. It is also clear to me that her love and the lessons she taught you will stay with you the rest of your life. Dolly was famous, as you already heard, for being the convener. She hosted incredible holiday meals planned to the T, with a perfectly set gorgeous table and a menu prepared far in advance. And the amazing thing is that everyone was always welcome. Of course, the immediate family who you'd predict would come to a family meal, but even their in-laws, their friends, and whomever else wanted a place. As the family grew, so did her meals. And even as she got older, she just somehow put in more effort, made more room, bought more place settings, worked a little harder, and always made everyone feel welcome. The family told me that one Thanksgiving her back went out, but she was so invested in making the meal special for everyone that she crawled on her hands and knees to the kitchen so she could supervise the meal preparation. Now that is dedication. She was clearly the true matriarch of the family, and everyone in the extended family knew her as Aunt Dolly or Auntie Dolly, even if they weren't actually related. Each person felt welcome in her house and even turned to her for advice and support, which she would always give with great generosity of heart. Her nieces, grandnieces said that when their mother had, when anybody was sick in the family, she took care of everyone, and she was there at different times to be a grandmother to those who needed one, a mother to those who needed, never missing children's activities or games, shows, attending events. It didn't matter. She was there because she loved each and every one of you. She never missed a birthday. She never missed a milestone event. She was so thoughtful, and she cared about everyone greatly. In my mind, the way I like to think of it is she just had this huge heart, and it seemed to expand each and every time to accommodate everyone in her life. And this, of course, meant that she was a great and loyal friend as well, making friends locally and all over the country. I just want to share with all of you, at Bethel, a place she cared about very much, my synagogue, she knew so many people. She was a regular on Shabbat, and she loved talking with everyone during the Kiddush after services. And she was active in our sisterhood and created many relationships that way. I met Dolly personally 19 years ago when I joined the congregation. She was so friendly to me when I first came. She was truly interested, or at least she faked it very well, in who I was, all about my family, my life. We had great conversations over the years, and I looked forward to seeing her each and every week. I always remember that she was put together. She seemed to like to wear colorful clothing, and she always had jewelry on, earrings, pearls, and other things. She took a number of my classes over the years, and she always asked great questions and shared sharp insights. She seemed to really like to learn, and I could tell how smart she was. I also want to reflect that she was very devoted to the Jewish people. She was involved in an organization called ORT, an organization that supports Jewish communities around the world by providing those communities with access to quality Jewish education and other services for children and families. She was both chapter and regional president, and she was on the national board. She rightly took pride in this work, and her involvement displayed her leadership capabilities. She also loved Israel, and she visited several times during her life, including taking her family on an unforgettable trip for Israel's 50th anniversary. Later in life, she met Dan, and as the family shared, she had the blessing of falling in love twice in a lifetime. They too had a great marriage of almost 35 years and a wonderful partnership for the second half of her life. Dan and Dolly were pillars at Bethel, and it was great to get to know them both as individuals and as a couple. I also want to add something that you already know, which was already mentioned, but I have something I want to say about it, which is how organized Dolly was. Now, until I met with the family, I wasn't aware of the extent, but this totally tracks what I know of her. Everything had its place, and more precisely, in my conversations with you, there was a proper way to do everything. And she would let you know if that way wasn't done. But she always did it with love and with a smile and with warmth. I loved hearing that the family found guest lists, menus, and seating arrangements for each meal in this notebook or something that she had, and even notations about which dish needed to be doubled for next year and so. One of my favorite anecdotes was that, which was kind of intimated when Michelle spoke, was that Dolly already knew which food was everyone's favorite So she parceled out leftovers for everyone to take home before she even served the meal. That's awesome. People will certainly miss her meatballs, tzimmis, and all those desserts that you heard about. And I love the fact that people used to shop in her freezer. That's fantastic. Look, bottom line, Dolly was a special, special lady. I felt it. You know it. She made an impression on everyone she met. Her fellow community members loved her. Her friends loved her. And even the staff at both the assisted living facility and hospital loved her. And of course, her family loved her dearly. And they knew with every action she took how much she loved them. May the memory of Devorah bat Avraham Varezel, Darlene Dolly Howard Nast, be for a blessing, and may she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. In a moment, the casket is going to be lowered. I'm going to recite Psalm 121 as this happens. Shir Hamalot, Esa Einai El Harim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz, Ayiten Lamot Raglecha, Al Yanum Shomrecha, Hine Lo Yinum V'lo Yishan, Shomer Yisrael, Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha, Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakeka V'yareach Balayla, Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzidcha uvoecha me'ata v'yad olam. Translation: a song for ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. The guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm and guard your life. God also guards your going and your coming, now and forevermore. Al Mekoma Tavo V'Shalom. May Devorah bat Avraham Varezel, Dolly Nast, go to God in peace. And let us say Amen. In a moment, the vault cover will be placed. I'm going to begin reciting a prayer called Siddur Kadin, which is traditionally recited at the graveside, which talks about the righteousness of God even in the face of sadness. Hatzur tamim polo ki chol rachav mishpat elamuna ve'navel tzadik v'yashar hu. Hatzur tamim b'chol po'al miyomar lo matifal hashalif v'matav ma mimid v'chayam morid shol v'ya'al. Hatzur tamim b'chol ma'aseh miyomar lo mataseh האומר ועושה חסד חינם לנו תעשה, ובזכות הנעקד כסה הקשיבה ועשה. צדיק בכל דרכיו עצור תמים, ערך אפיים ומלא רחמים, חמול נא וחוס נא לבוא ובנים, כי לך אדון הסליחות והרחמים. צדיק אתה אדוני להמית ולהחיות, אשר בידך פיקדון כל רוחות, חלילה לך זיכרוננו למחות, יונה עיניך ברחמים עלינו פקוחות, כי לך אדון הרחמים והסליחות. אדם מבן שנה יהיה או אלף שנים יחיה, מה יתרון לו כלא יהיה ברוך דיין האמת, ממית ומחיה. ברוך הוא כי אמת דינו, ומשותן הכל בינו, משלם לאדם חשבונו ודינו, והכל לשמו הודיה ייתנו. ידענו אדוני כי צדק משפטיך תצדק בדבריך ותזכה בשופטיך, ואין להרהר אחר מידת שופטיך. צדיק אתה אדוני וישר משפטיך. דיין אמת שופט צדק ואמת, ברוך דיין האמת שכל משפטיו צדק ואמת. נפש כל חי בידיך, צדק מלא ימינך, רחם על פליטת צאן ידיך, ותאמר למלאך הרף ידיך. גדול העצה ורב העלייה, אשר עיניך פקוחות על כל דרכי בני אדם, לתת איש כדרכיו, בכרי מעל אליו. להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי, ולאהבה תבוא, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach yehi shem Adonai mevorach. Urachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchit v'yirbal hashiva po v'lo yair kol chamatzahu. The perfect rock whose work we perceive reveals a faithful God, true and upright and honest. Dare we to ask God to account for any deed. God rules below and on high, causing death, but giving life, bringing down to the grave, but raising us up in comfort as well. We know, God, that your discretion is beyond us. We know, God, that your word is good, but your judgments at times they puzzle us. And though we may brood over harsh realities, we do place our trust in your righteousness. We accept our loss and the love that remains with us forever. Have mercy upon us, strengthen us to maintain our courage at this time of sorrow. Adonai Natan, the Lord has given, Adonai Lakach, the Lord has taken. Yishem Adonai Mevarach, praise be the name of God. Vayashov hafar ha'aretz kishaya v'aruach tashuv el ha'elohim asher natana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. May Dolly Nast's soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. Send comfort, God, to those who mourn. Grant strength to those whose burden is sorrow. And let us all say, Amen. And ask those who are seated, if you're able to stand for the memorial prayer, which I'll do as soon as the engine is off. Memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShchina, B'malot Kidoshim Utorim, Kizohar Rakia, Mazirim et Nishmat Devora Bat Avraham Verezel, Shalcha Liolama, V'gan Eden Tei Menuchata, Ana Bala Rachamim, Hastireh b'seiter kenafecha li'olamim, utzror b'tzorah chayim et nishmata. Adonai Nachalata, V'tzanok B'Shalom Amishkava, V'nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure. To Devorah, Bat Avraham Verezel, Darlene Dolly Howard Nast, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that her loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May she rest in peace, and let everyone here say, Amen. This time I'm going to ask the immediate family to join me in the Mourner's Kaddish, which I believe is in your service folder, back page. Okay. Yitzkadal, Yitzkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Divrach Hirute, Ve'amlich Malchute, Ve'chayechon, Uvyomechon, Uvchaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam U'almei Almaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yit'aleh, V'yithalal, Shemei Dekudasha Briachu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush bechata v'nechamata, Damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, U'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May Dolly's memory forever be a blessing. It is a custom in the Jewish tradition that we, her community of family and friends, were the ones who put her to her final rest. So it's considered actually a great mitzvah and an act of compassion to participate in the burial process. So I'm going to ask that everyone participate if you feel comfortable. The family will, of course, go first. A couple of things to say about this custom. One is, of course, for your own safety, be very careful around the graveside. From a customary point of view, we have some traditions that we follow. We don't hand the shovel from one person to the next, like we're in a rush or we're enjoying ourselves in some way. You can just hold it in there so the next person can take it. The second thing is we do at least 3 shovelfuls. 3 is considered an act of significance. And third, not everybody does this, but there is a custom, something that I follow, where the first shovelful, instead of holding the shovel the normal way, you turn it the other way, because you never do that in a normal act of shoveling. It reminds you that this is a mitzvah. So I'm going to ask the family first to come on over, and then everyone else can participate as well.
Because if they really wanted to just do what they were said, you know what I'm saying? So I sent them QR code because she didn't send a QR code from the inside so that they could write a message, let them know. So that's, I feel like that's the only thing I'm making.
No.
There's already Israeli earth in the casket, but I'm going to add some also to the graveside, representing Dolly's eternal connection to the people in this land.
$20 group.
$20 for a small bag? Yeah. This is a dispensary price. right after. Yeah. So I'm gonna go way up to my friends. Somebody did 30. Maybe it was Thanksgiving, it was a young I hear say one thing, I hear something else. Whatever it is, I'll think about it. Comes with the castle. I think your mother and my mother both. I think Sally's good with that. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Aaron thinks they're not. Apparently, ever together. Came out and made it like. Kids are twins are boy and girl.
Yeah, for being in-laws, they were
You know what's nice this year? And this is something nice this year. And them not stepping on you going, oh, do you feel like shit now before you start? Oh, okay, well here, let's say this. And then there's like, oh, no, guys will have to hold on to this. And this is, it's like,
Like John met me, we both moved away from the even that, I made sure John and then John and I were both primarily because it was Catholic and he didn't want to walk the shoes with the church. Literally, that's how he had it. He's like, yo, I just want to see you guys show people the Catholic church. So, we got it. All together now. Jesus. Yeah. I needed Sally and Katie.
I asked how old they were. Oh my. Have you taken a picture? I took it up.
Yeah, we got his father-in-law calling him in at that party. He came down and I wrote a song about Sally and like I recorded it. It's great song. Super accurate. It's no I was trying to figure that out. Like, John had it's called Steaming Sally, so it just literally it looks like an angry blondie. Plastic thing. You like can put like minute water in it, and you microwave it, and it cleans the inside of your microwave. All the Steaming Sally. Yeah, and it has a whole random review about how you won't like Sally when she's angry. I keep it. He like all those like I was given a shirt. Jason's one like why is your less? Sally too. And like whichever one was definitely behaving better that day would be the one, you know. Some people don't appreciate, like you're the first one to appreciate my creativity. Wasn't good. Could be. That was the level of commitment would be pretty. I think that would be.
Anybody else in the family is willing to come back and help?
How about you?
I am not in Wisconsin. Because you can't grow up and move out of the city.
Yeah, there was
Just gonna at least put her on the edge.
I want to get them to hang out with me.
Basic area.
What's his name? Michael should went to
kids got on. Yeah, no, yeah, it's
Saw a
good to do
butterfly
that.
and a too.
That'll stop them leaving for like a half hour or whatever. So I was like, please don't. And I think we probably did like right after. But yeah, because they're like, oh my god, I don't know how to take off. I think it's really just an excuse for them to be like, okay, I get a second break. Yeah. Take another 2 hours, go take a nap in one of these nap pod things that are in the middle of there. No. This is recent. Where am I? I wonder if there's any
summer. I think I could be a minute. We'd all like bring some good gifts on our side. And we'll get off to watch candles. Everyone's having a very nice time. It's a long spot. It's been very, it's very hard. My brother's having a hard time. Everybody's having a hard time. And my dad, we realize it's almost 75 years ago. The longer you have somebody that in your life, it's just very hard. Yeah, it's more like I watch your baseball games with them. 97. He called me last night. Because I was just there. Right. And I said, Dad, you know what? I said, Dad, I gotta get out of here. I can't. He said, you know what? You better go. He doesn't have to. Marlene, I want to tell you something. I said, what? Dad, what? He said, you got finished? Yeah. I could hear Papa say. I said, what are you talking about? No, I'm thinking. He said, did they win? I said,
You have bad luck. Right. Especially in baseball, it's all superstition. Thank you, Dad. Right, you can't come to the game if you lose, right?
All right.
Now they're going to do the rest now and cover the vaults. And then we're going to do that thing I talked to you about, the Shabbat with those 2 lines. And you're going to walk down the middle with the
Okay.